What's going on, guys? We are working on the LJ today. Now, about 3 years ago, we did the LS swap on this thing, and I have loved everything about it. It's been great, except there is one major issue or thing I would have done differently if I could go back and do it all over again. So let's hop in the Jeep so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So a real quick recap, we got the 5.3 LS, we've got the Stage 2 cam from Texas Speed, we've got the stock transmission, the 4L60E, and I'm also running 513 gear. So I'm gonna turn this on and show you guys what I'm talking about. All right, she turns on, she runs fine. However, whenever I put this thing into drive, it just wants to go almost on its own. The moment I let go of the brake, it is driving. I don't have to do anything, which yes, that is normal, but there is absolutely no slip. So we're gonna go into 4 low now. The moment I let off the gas, this thing is just moving. It is not, I wouldn't say it's crawling, but it wants to power through the brakes. It wants to just keep going. I mean, it just goes so fast for it being in 4 low, and that really makes it a problem when we're rock crawling, especially when I have my foot on the brake when we're going downhill. I can't stop this thing. It wants to go, and it's just going to drive right through it. So let's pull this thing in the shop so we can talk about what we're gonna do about this problem. So the problem is not the brakes, it is the torque converter. Right now, the current setup is just too tight. There's no slip. There is just power always going to the drivetrain, even when I'm not on the throttle. So to solve that, we have a new TCI converter. Now this one has a 24 to 2600 stall. I think this is really going to help with the drivability of this Jeep, and it's gonna be the sweet spot, and it's actually going to be enjoyable to get back on the trails with again. So Ben is currently running a TCI converter in his race Jeep.
And with that, we went with a 3600
Woo!
stall, much higher, but it's a drastic difference driving the two. Like this, it will not really move until you give it gas and get on the throttle, then the torque converter kind of engages and you start moving. So I think 24 to 26 on Cassie's Jeep is gonna be extremely drivable, but really give you the control that you want.
That I'm looking for, yeah.
Exactly.
So before we can even get this thing installed, we have to pretty much tear out everything underneath the Jeep. So I'm gonna put the camera down, we're gonna get the Jeep on the lift and start tearing stuff apart. So the first thing we gotta do is drop the skid plate, but since the transmission mount is incorporated into the skid plate, we went ahead and set up the trans jack. That way we can go ahead and pull this off and get to the transfer case. Oh no.
Did it break?
Yeah. No, it didn't.
You scared me.
Me too.
I was like, oh man.
That scared me too.
Gonna break out the welder.
Holy.
Alright.
Now that the skid plate's removed, we can go ahead and pull out the front and rear drive shafts. Double leaf it. Boom. All right, got the rear drive shaft off, moving on to the front. I'm gonna let Ben do this one because the ratcheting wrench does not fit on this one.
Gotta go back to the old caveman days.
It's supposed to be so strong. Oh my god!
Oh, it's hanging right here.
Serious? That's better. Well, it only took one more, like a turn and a half to bust it loose. Oh. We got the transfer case out. Now we probably could have left it attached, but it's just more manageable to do just this whole project with that removed. And we might have to take the exhaust apart as well. And we ripped our gasket. Ah! We ripped our gasket, unfortunately. We're gonna have to go get a new gasket too. Oh, there it goes. starter is out, and this is where we call it a night and drop the transmission tomorrow. Day 2, back in the shop, and it's time to get the transmission dropped. Now, if I could go back in time and install a high stall torque converter when I was doing the LS swap, I would 100% do that because I probably would not be here now. However, you know, we installed the stage 2 cam from Texas Speed, and it did say it was stock converter friendly. Now, that would probably be true if I was just using this as a daily driver or maybe putting it in just like a street car. But since I need the 4 low capabilities, the crawling capabilities, that's kind of why we're here today, having to do this swap now. Also, there is a rear main seal leak, at least that's what we think it is, so we're gonna have to check that out once we drop the transmission as well. So we got a lot of work to do. It's time to get back under there, loosen some more bolts, and pull the transmission. All right, bolt number 2. Bolt number 3. Oh, yep, it definitely wants to fall back though. All right, so you go throw that somewhere. The old converter is out, and we got the new one from TCI right here that's about ready to go in. I'm really excited to almost be done with this job because I don't want to have to do this again in the foreseeable future.
So we're just filling the converter with like 1 quart of fluid. We're using the max shift from TCI. And we went with the TCI converter because you guys can see how big of a job this is. It's not easy to do. And the last thing you want to do is put in a crappy converter and have a lot of run out on it, vibrates the Jeep to death, or, you know, it fail within a year. So
yeah, we don't want to have to get back in there again.
TCI makes good stuff. And since, like Cassie mentioned earlier, since the trans is out, now's the time to do the rear main. So we got to dig into that and see what's up. Because
there's a small leak coming from there, so I'm kind of glad that we're not just pulling the transmission out for the rear main seal, because that's the worst.
Yeah, we're killing two birds with 1 stone.
Yep, so we're gonna hop under there, get that replaced, and get the new TCI converter in. I've got a new rear cover with the rear main seal already in it. Just makes it a little easier to install. I've got the alignment tool. So we're gonna pop this on and then bolt her down. The rear main seal is done. Now all that's left to do is pop the converter in. So Ben's going to do this because it is just too heavy for me, and I'm okay to admit that. Like, I'm not going to do this part. So he's going to make sure it seats in, and then to rotate it, make sure it sinks in one more time.
I've got a quart of fluid in there, and some of that's probably about to fall out. Let's see. So
I went in.
Yeah, we got fluid.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got it. There it goes. That's all the way in. If you're not sure if it's all the way seated, it does come with instructions that give you like measurements to take to make sure that it is placed all the way in, but I'm pretty confident with what Ben just did there.
That definitely sounded like it popped all the way in.
I think so, which means we can start putting everything back together.
The fun part.
The fun part. It's more fun than taking it apart. That's a lie.
It's gonna feel like a whole new
It
rig,
is.
I bet.
And the next day, I'm gonna be able to drive it around, put it in 4 low, and just test it. Use the flex ramp outside.
Yeah.
And just take it for a spin. All right.
Go do some drag races.
Not happening, not in this thing. But we will, let's put it together and then go from there. This is the first time we've worked on this thing with, or done anything LS swap related on the lift like this. And we were so excited because I had to go get a transmission jack.
We were like,
I wasn't gonna have to be on the ground helping Ben lower it down. And then we get the transmission jack and we got one that was too tall. We can't move it out of the lift can't go any higher because of the ceiling, and we can't move it out of the way. So we couldn't even move it out of the.
It worked for this scenario. Like, we can't wheel the trans. So like, if we wanted to get it out to the bench, we'd have to just manhandle it from here.
Yeah.
So it's helpful to drop it at least. It'll be nice, like having it to put it back in.
Oh no, this is kind of nice. It ended up working out though. Yeah, it's in. That's it. So before we button everything back up, we want to make sure that the converter has like free play, it can move, it can spin. We also want to make sure that there's some in and out movement. as well. Make sure it's not bound up by anything. And you probably can't even see the movement that it does have, but it is. It's free, it's moving in and out. I think at this point we're good to, what I say, button her up, clean it up, put it all back together, and then test it out. After all that work, the Jeep is finally down from the lift, filled it up with ATF, and now we are ready to take it on a test drive. Now we gotta move the race Jeep, but this is a good example of a really exaggerated stall converter. Ben's really gotta rev it up in order to even make this thing move.
So yours won't be this exaggerated.
No.
But, you know, 3600 stall converter, you'll physically hear how much we have to rev it to even get this thing to move.
And I remember my first time driving it, I was like giving it, I was going, and it's like, you know, it's getting to the point where it just seemed crazy. He's like, you really gotta gas it.
You gotta go.
And that's when I realized, yeah, you really gotta gas it.
All right.
The belt popped off?
It didn't happen during the race, but ever since we got home, it's like only on the very, very first startup of the day, sometimes it throws the belt off. And we tried switching sizes. I think it's just the, we probably just need to get a new belt tensioner.
That's what,
But it is a quite annoying problem.
oh, it's tight. Okay. All right, round two. So good. So good. All right, now mine won't look or sound that cool, but it'll still be cool enough for me.
Good news is I think the rear main seal is fixed. Yeah.
We're gonna go drive around a little bit and let the transmission get up to temp before we start hammering on it. So let's go take a little cruise.
Yeah, Bronco.
Now the steering is there's still some play in the steering. I need to go over to like hydro assist or just like get a whole new steering box, but if we're doing that,
Yeah.
might as well go hydro assist. So I also would like to find a smooth road. Oklahoma roads are very bumpy. If anyone's you live here, you know what I'm talking about. So just putting around town, it feels so much better. The drivability, it's much more enjoyable to drive at this point. So let's go open her up. Transmission temp is getting up there a little bit, so I'd say she's almost warmed up. Well, for the first time on a hill like this, it's not like before in just regular drive. If I was on a slight uphill like this, it would still go. And now I'm not on the brake or anything. I have to be the one to let it go. So
Well, that's good.
that's a nice change. I also feel more in control. I don't know how to explain it. Like before, I felt like it was very hoppy, so I always had to be like ready to figure out. Like I was trying to think ahead of the vehicle, like if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But now, like I'm back. Like I can just drive it. You know what I mean? Like I'm in control of lowering it, getting on the brakes. I don't
really
before.
did. Like it was, and she's not exaggerating. I remember driving this, and like when you stop at a stoplight, I mean, we had tried everything. We brought the RPMs down to like 650. It just, like, you had to stand on the brakes. That's pretty peppy. I think that's like the first time that she spun the
tires. That was the first, and I didn't let off either.
Nice.
Normally I'm like, "Grr."
that takes off so much harder.
It does. So just from testing it out on the road here, it is already such a major improvement. I am over the moon excited about being able to like drive this thing around for fun again. So we're gonna go back to the house now. The transmission temp is up to about 175. I'd say she's warmed up. We're gonna go test it out in 4 low and see if I can crawl now.
That's one thing we didn't talk about. So
No.
stall converters, they do build heat. So you do need to make sure you have a trans cooler, and you have one from the swap already.
Yep.
But 174 from all that's not bad at all.
Pretty good.
Like as long as you're not above 200, we're good.
I'm excited to go see. We can test it. We can crawl up the ramp at home and flex it and see if I'm able to like
Then we need to hit
control
the trails,
crawl.
throw your bead locks on.
Well, I mean, after this video is wrapped up, we're headed to get a trailer so that we can trailer his race Jeep. So I'm really excited. So let's get home because we got more things to do today. All right, we are ready for the 4 low test. This is the ultimate test because this is pretty much all that matters is when we get out on the trail and if I can actually stop it. So I've got it in drive, 4 low. We're moving and I can stop and it doesn't try to push through it.
Really?
Yeah, like it feels comfortable.
Really?
It stops and it's not a tease, you know? I can actually stop when I need to without it pushing through the brakes, which is really nice. However, the sway bars are still connected, which, I mean, I'm not gonna be able to flex as much, but it is really nice to not like be forced to go somewhere that I don't want to go. I'm so glad to finally have this project done. This thing really needed a new converter and it is so much more fun to drive now. I'm really excited to get out on the trails in just a couple of weeks. Now there are a couple of other projects I still need to do on this that I need to go get started on right after this. So as always guys, thank you so much for the support. I will see you guys next time and we have plenty more to do. My name's Cassie and keep Jeeping classy.